Welcome back to another video. My name is Corey Phillips. I will be doing my part 2 reaction on Davos, Switzerland, having some of the top entrepreneurs, business leaders across the world. Today, we will be reacting to Elon Musk interview, talking about the future of the world, AI, robotics, and what the entails for the future. So make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to get right into it. And I'm going to get right into this first episode. So let's get right back into it. I'll play this first clip.
This is really the path to abundance for all. If you say, people often talk about solving global poverty, or essentially how do we give everyone a very high standard of living. I think the only way to do this is AI and robotics, which doesn't mean that it is without its issues. I mean, we need to be very careful with AI. We need to be very careful with robotics.
Right.
We don't want to find ourselves in a James Cameron movie, Terminator. he's great movies. I love his movies, but we don't want to be in Terminator, obviously.
Right.
But if you have ubiquitous AI that is essentially free or close to it, and ubiquitous robotics, then you will have an explosion in the global economy, an expansion in the global economy that is truly beyond all precedent.
Elon, can that expansion?
Yeah, I think this is something that's super important for people to understand, is that it's something that is here to stay. And we, of course, look at the things that's bad. We look at the different things that's happening. But this is not a productivity argument. Abundance comes from output per worker continuing to go up. But abundance isn't automatic. It depends on who owns the robots, who owns the data, and who owns the distribution. If ownership is concentrated, you get abundance for a few and instability for everyone else. But it's also important for people so communities should be able to be planning for AI adoptions like infrastructure, not like an app trend, looking at workforce training, small business AI adoption, local procurement, as well as vendor ecosystems. And from the investor perspective, it's super important for people to understand this is why investing matters, because when productivity shocks happen, capital owners are usually the people who win first. And if you don't own assets, you really feel the disruption, not the upside. So abundance is real, but the real fight is whether it is shared or extracted from many of the things that we see. So this is super important. Let me go over to the next video and we'll go from there.
And actually, my prediction is in the benign scenario of the future that the robots will actually make so many robots and AI that they will actually saturate all human needs. Meaning you won't be able to even think of something to ask the robot for at a certain point. There will be such an abundance of goods and services, because my prediction is that there'll be more robots than people. So,
but how do you then have human purpose in that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's perfect, but it is a necessary. You can't have both. You can't have work that has to be done and amazing abundance for all. Because if it's work that has to be done, then you and only some people can do it, then you can't have abundance.
Then
for
it's
all.
narrow.
It's narrow, yeah. Exactly. So, but if you have billions of humanoid robots, and I think there will be. I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one.
Yeah, I think this is something that people should understand from just an economic perspective, is that if every household has a robot, labor becomes cheap and the time becomes the scarce asset. That means if your income won't come from hours being worked, it will come from skills, brands, systems, and ownership. So the biggest impact areas as far as caregiving, as far as elder care, logistics, manufacturing, retail, and services. But cities need new strategies, from reskilling pipelines, small business modernization grants, as well as incentives for robotics and companies to build locally. If robots become the labor as service, but then businesses can start with less capital. Now, new businesses become easier, but competition becomes insane, and differentiation is really what matters. So, in order for you to solve different issues, it's not about you being able to work more hours, but being able to work more efficient. What different things that can separate you from everyone else. In the robot economy, the purpose is human, but profits go to owners. So, if you're someone who owns different systems, you're the person that understands how to make yourself different and provide value through automation. You'll see so much more success regardless of what we see throughout this new thing of AI and robotics and things that will be here. So either adjust or you'll fall behind. Let's move over to this next clip real quick.
The rate at which AI is progressing, I think we might have AI that is smarter than any human by the end of this year, and I would say no later than next year.
Wow.
And then probably by 2030 or 2031, call it 5 years from now, AI will be smarter than all of humanity collectively.
Wow. So this is something that's super important to understand, is because AI is something that's here to stay, and it's getting better and better each and every day. And if this is even close, the skill of the future is not memorization, it's judgment. People who can ask the right questions, verify outputs, and make decisions will truly win. And the wealth gap becomes leveraged versus unleveraged. So it's very important that AI is basically a free analyst, an assistant, and researcher. If you use it daily, you can get compounding advantage. And this is why I teach young people to learn AI like you learn money. Because AI isn't replacing intelligence, it's replacing people who don't adapt. And AI will continue to get smart to the point where if people are not able to automate and compound within their own life and think for themselves and make decisions and the things that truly matter, then they will get priced out, and it's going to continue to get worse before it gets better. So let me get over to this next clip, and then we'll go from there.
The limiting factor for AI deployment is fundamentally electrical power.
It's right. It's energy.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing the rate of AI chip production increase exponentially, but the rate of electricity being brought online is
3%, 4% a year, max.
Yeah, it's clear that we're very soon, maybe even later this year, we'll be producing more chips than we can turn on.
Yeah, this is something that's super important because we're building so many data centers, we're building so much AI infrastructure that there's not enough energy to provide the demand that we need for these chips. This is the most underrated part of the AI conversation. AI isn't just software, it's power grids, it's grids and infrastructure. And whoever controls energy capacity controls the speed of AI growth. So in terms of this, becomes local opportunity for people who want to be able to build energy, grid updates, workforce for electricians and engineering and trades, permitting and construction jobs. The next economic boom isn't only for coders, it's for trades, infrastructure, as well as manufacturing. So be able to follow the CapEx spending, capital spending on energy, data centers, chips, cooling, transmission, and the AI economy runs on electricity, not on opinions. So this is something for people that's in trades, people that's in those other construction-related fields. You will continue to see the growth in those areas moving forward exponentially.
Except for China. China's growth in electricity is tremendous.
They're building 100 gigawatts of nuclear as we speak.
Actually, solar is the biggest thing in China. So I believe China's production capacity on solar is 1,500 gigawatts a year, and they're deploying over 1,000 gigawatts a year of solar. Now, for continuous solar.
So this is also another thing that's important for people to understand, is that the United States is behind. We do well as far as a business standpoint, but we are behind as far as infrastructure compared to countries like China. They have 90% of the world's manufacturing of rare earth minerals. they have a way better grid as far as energy in terms of electricity. You mentioned talking about solar. If the United States does not focus on things that we actually need, like infrastructure, in terms of that, we're going to continue to lose this artificial intelligence. It's not about you have all these different companies with all this money, but if you don't have the energy, you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the partnerships, you will not be successful moving forward if they don't continue to get a hold of this type of thing moving forward. So let's move on to the next clip as well.
Rough way to think about it is 100 miles by 100 miles, or call it 160 kilometers by 160 kilometers of solar is enough to power the entire United States. So the 100 mile by 100 mile area is, I mean, you could take basically a small corner of Utah, Nevada, New Mexico. Obviously, you wouldn't want it all in one place, but it is a very small percentage of the area of the U.S. to generate all of the electricity that the U.S. uses. And the same is true, actually, I mean, for Europe. You could take a small, you could take relatively unpopulated areas of, say, Spain and Sicily, and generate all of the electricity power that Europe needs.
So this is something that's super important. And this is not a technology problem, it's a policy and supply chain problem. And understanding that, yes, we see all of these different data centers. Yes, it takes a lot of time, but if energy becomes cheap, the cost of living drops, business cost drops, and growth expands. But if we continue to block these different things, block supply chains, we slow the whole entire economy. And this is serious civic angle, because it's something that's like permitting reform, utility modernization, training programs, as well as local manufacturing incentives. Energy abundance is economic development. If we don't build more energy, we don't actually build more things in these different parts of the world, then we cannot, the price of energy in your daily life will continue to go up as we speak. So we have to prioritize this if we want to become successful in terms of making quality of life better, as well as being able to grow the economy at the same time. So this is something that, regardless of what you think, is something that's super important.
Do you think that there's a movement towards that here and in the United States?
Well, there is.
As it is in China.
Well, unfortunately, in the U.S., the tariff barriers for solar are extremely high, and that makes the economics of deploying solar so artificially high, because China makes almost all the solar,
What would it take for Europe or the U.S. to build it commercially, if it's that scale?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can tell you what we're going to do. SpaceX and Tesla is we're building up large-scale solar.
Right.
So the SpaceX and Tesla teams both separately are working to build to 100 gigawatts a year of solar power in the U.S.
This is super important because, of course, you see the different geopolitical things happening with tariffs and regulations with the United States. So a lot of these billionaires are taking it to their own hands in order to create their own energy. So Tesla and SpaceX are two of his companies that he has. He has many more, of course. But instead of them relying on the United States government, relying on the European Union to build those different things, they're going to go and build it themselves. He needs all this money so they can invest and be able to build their own energy. Because China manufactures their own energy with solar and build those different things. So they're able to move at a faster rate. So regardless of what the government does, they can use their money, buy land, build solar, build data centers. So they have their own energy, they have their own data centers, so that they can be able to ensure the success of these autonomous artificial intelligence large language systems moving forward. Let's move over to this next clip as well. It's pretty interesting.
Factory. We accept it probably later this year. By the end of this year, I think they'll be doing more complex tasks. But still deployed in an industrial environment, and probably sometime next year, I'd say that by the end of next year, I think would be selling humanoid robots to the public. that's when we are confident that it's very high reliability, very high safety, and the range of functionality is also very high. You can basically ask it to do anything you'd like.
Wow, that's so cool. Like looking back, is when this hits households and the consumer economy changes forever. It's like smartphones, once it's normal, the entire market reorganizes. New businesses will form around robot training, safety, maintenance, and workflows. So look at different entrepreneurship ideas someone can use as far as like robot setup and workflows for small businesses, robot productivity audits, safety and compliance consulting, robot training and content templates. So new tech creates new jobs, not just the ones that people are mostly attached to. So even though AI is going to kill a lot of jobs, it's going to create a lot of new jobs that haven't even been created, and new economies and new businesses that will thrive over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. The next $1 trillion companies that's going to dominate the AI revolution haven't even been created yet. And we have to be able to utilize this information and thinking just not beyond today, but think about the long-term perspective. Let's move over to this next clip about space.
In the space.
I think the case, it's a no-brainer for building solar-powered AI data centers in space. Because as you mentioned, it's also very cold in space. If you're in the shadow, then it's very cold in space, just 3 degrees Kelvin. So you have solar panels facing the sun, and then a radiator that's pointed away from the sun, so it has no sun incidence, and then it's just cooling. It's a very efficient cooling system. So
that's super insane. Like you look at data centers, take a lot of energy, they take a lot of water. They are very bad for the environment, of course. But even if space data centers take longer, the point is energy and cooling decide where compute goes. Compute will move where it's cheapest and power and cool. Where's the cheapest to power and cool. And that means certain regions will win big and others will lag. So instead of us being able to degrade a lot of the stuff in the earth, they're going to be able to put this in outer space. And cities should fight for data center investment, energy projects, STEM and trade pipelines, so that compute follows cheap power the way people follow opportunities. So this is something that's super important, that you got to think bigger than just where you're at. We're talking about small level things, but we're talking about putting data centers to outer space, using the heating from the sun, but also the cooling from space to be able to power a lot of these data centers is insane. So we're really looking at the perspective of like how Elon Musk is is the richest man in the world currently. And you see at the level of consciousness that he's thinking. For a lot of people, this sounds crazy, but he's literally doing things that have never been done. You can say what you want about what his personal beliefs are, but as an entrepreneur, he is one of the greatest minds and most innovative people that entrepreneurs has ever seen. And that's why you look at investments of his multiple companies in terms of making him build more and more wealth, because he's solving transformative ideas that have never been done in the history of mankind. So it's incredible to see some of this ambition and drive that he's doing. So that's something that any entrepreneur can learn from. You don't got to believe in what he does, his personal beliefs, but from a business perspective, it's incredible. Let's get into this last clip real quick.
Any last words?
Well, I think my last words would be, I would encourage everyone to be optimistic and excited about the future.
Good.
And generally, I think for quality of life, it is actually better to err on the side of being an optimist and wrong rather than a pessimist and right.
On that note.
And that's something that's super powerful, understanding that we look at a lot of things that's happening. We look at the earth is going down. We see all the geopolitical issues. We look at all of the different conflicts. But you have to be able to be in the mindset of a builder. But optimism without systems is just vibes. We need optimism plus execution plus ownership. Cynicism is safe, but building is risky. But that's why builders get paid, because people are able to build the biggest things in the world and take the biggest risks are going to get the biggest rewards. And the people who continue to look at being safe or looking at the negatives, you'll always be in that position where you'll be in that negative spotlight. Use this as something that's super important. Technology changes productivity, and productivity changes wages, and wages changes everything. The question isn't about will AI grow? The question is who will capture the upside? If you don't own assets, you'll only experience the disruption. The new divide is leverage versus unleveraged. Economic development is about making opportunity local, not just global. And I want you to know that this is something that is super important for us to continue to just learn from these billionaires, learn from these high-level people, because we're focused on things that don't matter or focus on things that puts us against each other. But look at the biggest entrepreneurs, look at the most influential people in the world of business, of culture, in the world, and how we can use this information to build our future and our agenda so that we can be able to not get left out, but also grow our communities and create that future that we always desired. Because it's not about a lack of information, it's like an implementation, it's a lack of mindset, it's less of consciousness. And that we all have it in each and every one of us in our day, that we can use that to become the greatest version of ourselves. So if you like this video, let me know what you think in the comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe at Corey Phillips 32. Share this to your friends, to your families. What's your take on these different clips? And what do you think for 2026? Will we see robots in 2026 or 2027? Will we go out to outer space? Let me know in the comment section below. And make sure you all have an amazing day. And I'll be back with a video later. Peace.